Hello, all Israel News viewers. I'm Oriel. This is Levi from Discover Israel Tour with Levi. Levi, what are we doing in this magnificent place?
So we're here discovering biblical sites. Today we're going to discover Arad, mentioned in Bamidbar, Numbers, where the Jews are wandering through the desert and the king of Arad goes to attack the Israelites and stops them in their way. And then God actually makes a promise to the Israelites that he will destroy the cities of the Canaanites.
So exciting. Let's go.
וישב הכנעני מלך ערד, ישב בנגב, כי בא ישראל דרך האתרים. And the king of Arad, the Canaanite city, dwelling inside of the Negev. So we are right now located on the northern peninsula of the Negev in a city called Arad, the ancient Canaanite city. Now, to get an understanding of who these people were, who decided to go and attack the Israelites after they heard about the mighty God of Israel, we could stand inside the city. Now, we know that we're aqua geniuses, that we're very good at water. We are now in the lowest part of the city where we can see this well dating back over 4,000 years, which then the whole city was then created to gather every drop of rainwater or flash floods to make sure that all the water. So we are very lucky, Oriel, and we're just after a major rainfall, and you can actually see still till today the city was built that the lowest parts would soak in all the water and it would go right into this water system, which then afterwards would supply the city with water. So we know they were good with water. And one of the perks of it being a very important and significant place is that we're going to find lots of pottery over here. And if we're lucky, because it was just after a rainfall, we might even find writing on this pottery or a handle with a symbol on it, which will tell us more about it while we walk around this Canaanite city, because it's washed away all the outside rubble. So really lucky to be here after a strong rainfall. Here we can see the fortified city of Arad, the pretty impressive walls with guard towers on each part to make sure they've got the blind spots. This is the location where the Iraqi soldiers, they would have held guard and seen the Israelites from afar in the distance. So definitely to try and see. Let me show you guys. Over here. So here we're facing east, so the Israelites would have been coming from the south, making their way to the north to try and come and conquer the promised land, which eventually this city was completely destroyed by Joshua ben Nun. So we ended up being successful in the end, but at the beginning they definitely put up a challenge and stunted the Israelites on their way. And here we can see a beautiful panorama view of the magnitude of this wall that I'm standing on right now. Over 4,000 years old, so really ancient history where civilization is going through an agricultural revolution. This is one of the places where we can actually see them turning into an urban city from a hunter-gatherer sort of culture. Alright, so let's dive deep into the people of Arad who dared to attack against the Israelites. That never works out well, so don't take example from them, but we're going to learn a little bit of the way they live. So here's a typical courtyard. We're talking about a 4,000-year-old settlement, but in the courtyard it would be somewhat of a social gathering. Also the kitchen, we have elevated work areas, sort of to grind wheat or sesame seeds or prepare dates or figs. As you can see, they have a little storeroom over here where they would keep the jugs. Let's come into the storeroom, which is super cool. So even on the floor here, just after the rain, we could see little shards of pottery. We know they used pottery back then, so that's super cool to find that just lying on the floor over here. Another sort of elevated work area, storeroom, and this would be the main section of a typical Aradi style house. So this is a little bit reconstructed to give you an idea of what it looked like. You would have had one or two columns coming up from the middle to the sky here to support the roof, which would normally be made of palm leaves or trees or something wooden. You'd always have these benches surrounding around, either for sleeping, but also this would be a place to protect. The walls were actually about 1 meter into the ground to insulate it from the heat that you have in the summer. It's more important to run away from the heat than protect yourself from the cold. Here, although it does get very cold, you can't really escape from the cold, but you can escape from the heat. On these benches around us, it would have been either a sleeping place, or you would have had containers here, also a social gathering. Each one of these houses look pretty much the same as we can see here. Inside of this city, it's estimated between 2,000 to 2,500 inhabitants. So we can see tens of these houses. Once again, a very small amount of this city is actually uncovered, but this really gives you a window into the people who dared to fight against the Jewish nation 3,000 years ago.
So I'm thinking about the amount of nations that have come and gone and come and gone, and how faithful God is to bring us back to this land every single time. We see a pattern of how when Israel strays away from God, they pay the price. There are consequences to that, and their enemies overtake them. But when they come back to God, when they repent, God's grace is able to come back with His hand and His covering to help them reach the promises that He has for them.
Underneath us is the undug part of Tel Arad. But you can see how far it is underground, so it really took magnitude. When we entered, people responsible on this site are local Bedouin. They love it and they actually look after it pretty well. And I asked them, why don't you continue digging? And he goes, you have to go and ask the authorities to go dig. He said, maybe we'll find canisters of gold underneath. And I think it's actually quite possible that there's serious treasure hidden under what we're walking over now, so that's kind of exciting. Since the rainfall really washed away, and later I'm starting to see all kinds of pieces of pottery here and cool different kinds of stone. Let's just turn around a second so they can see what it looks like when it is dug. All these kind of square houses, the typical Aradi house, the courtyard, the elevated platforms, the storehouses, and the typical one house that we have on the inside. And what we're going to see out here is going to be altars and temple of worship. So let's go check it out. We're in the governance palace. Kind of a more important person was here. This complex is larger than the rest of the complexes here, and so everyone had a little altar, especially the governor here. Here we found a stone. On the stone, we had a figure standing upright to symbolize life and a figure lying down to symbolize death. We can see how much that was sort of their day-to-day life, that they thought about those things, especially in the governor's house. We're coming into this quite incredible complexes, which were temple complexes. You can see two major complexes. The temples were actually facing east towards the sun to sunrise. You can see the significance of that. You can see a typical house of Aradi here, even with a cultic style stone standing vertically here in the middle. We understand that worship was important to them from various different deities. So 4,500 years ago, there was definitely an understanding of a spiritual realm as well. So we can see here in the ancient Canaanite city of Arad, they would also do similar things. How was worship done by the Canaanite nations? So we saw that what was in their house. Let's see how they worshipped. This would be a classic altar made of stone. We know for sure that it wasn't a Jewish altar because the Jews are mandated to make a altar of earth, so a mud brick altar instead of a stone altar from the Canaanite period. Here we can see a cultic basin, which basically they would burn animals here, and then the bones would be underneath. So, you'd make your sacrifice and then you'd burn your sacrifice. And what's super cool about this, you can see the stones actually vertical, which signs a covenant or a sign that goes up to God. It's a very significant thing, especially during that period, as you're taking a stone lying down, turning it vertically, and it's called a matzeva.
What an incredible day. We've seen so many spectacular things. Levi, what do you feel about today?
Phenomenal. From seeing the sites that Abraham would have seen, Isaac would have seen, Chizkiyahu Melech would have seen, places that Solomon would have passed by, it really gives me a deeper understanding. I love going to these places. It it really makes the story so much more meaningful to me, visualizing it and living it.
It's wonderful. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want more Israel-related content, go to allisraelnews.com. Hit the notification bell, hit subscribe, and Levi and I will see you in the next one.